Before we begin, a quiet invitation. Tonight, you'll drift through the shadows of the medieval world, not into myth or legend, but into the long, slow hours of real historical reality. The life of a medieval assassin was not glory, not action. It was patience, observation, silence, cold stone, long roads, and nights that stretched endlessly before the blade ever met its mark. This is not a story of battles and fame, but of dirt, hunger, and anonymity. You wouldn't survive a day not because you'd be caught, but because of the waiting, the watching, the disappearing. So put on your headphones, let the dull weight of history settle in, let the slowness carry you away, and while you're here, stay until the very end. Then, leave a comment below and tell me, how are you feeling? Still awake, somewhere between fact and sleep? I'd love to know now. Let's begin. It starts not with a dagger, but with dirt beneath your fingernails, between your teeth, in the folds of your cloak. You've been on the road for days, but that's not unusual. Movement is your only real safety. No one notices a man always on the move. It's when you stop that you become visible. You travel alone, always, but never without a cover. Today you're a pilgrim. Your worn satchel holds a carved wooden cross, a rosary, and a letter sealed in wax with a false crest. The road is full of others, like you, men and women walking toward holy sites, praying for healing, forgiveness, or simply a reason to be moving. You don't speak much. You let the silence between villages stretch long. When others greet you, you nod, offer a blessing, and move on. Your Latin is practiced, your accent purposefully vague. You belong to no place. That makes you harder to follow. The world around you is wide, but not empty. Fields stretch out in waves of brown and green. Small farms lean into the land. Children chase chickens through muddy yards. Smoke curls from thatched roofs. Dogs bark at your passing. No one looks twice. That is your first success. The tools of your trade are not visible. A simple knife at your belt, but nothing ornate. A vial tucked inside your boot. A length of garrote cord, woven to look like a drawstring. You carry no sword. You are not a knight, and you do not fight. If it ever comes to a fight, something has gone terribly wrong. The truth is, medieval assassins did not leap from rooftops, or throw knives through stormy courtyards. They waited, listened, took jobs passed quietly in candlelit back rooms. Payment came in coin, or promises, or power granted through silence. You are not a hero, not even in your own mind. You are a function, a solution to someone else's problem. The job ahead is still far away. A town 2 days north, across the river, past a toll gate, near the estate of a lesser noble. You do not yet know your target, only the place, only the rough time. This is normal. Information arrives in pieces. A coded phrase scratched into the margin of a psalm, a wax-sealed note left in the hollow of a wall, a hand signal given at a crossroads. The world speaks. If you listen slowly, you stop for the night in the loft of a barn. The farmer said nothing when you asked for shelter. He pointed. That was enough. The straw smells of animals. It clings to your clothing. You settle into the corner and eat cold bread from your pack. You chew slowly. Everything is slow now. Time stretches and folds inward. You listen to the oxen breathing below, the way wind moves through wooden slats. The job does not make your heart race. It dulls it, because you know what comes next. Waking early, moving again, avoiding eyes, remaining unremarkable. The life of a medieval assassin is not about killing, it is about not being noticed. That takes more discipline than most men ever learn. Tomorrow, you'll reach the market town. You'll blend, you'll watch, you'll begin the work behind the work. But for now, you lie back, you let your eyes close, you let the slow rhythm of sleep take hold, just as it would have hundreds of years ago. In a world where trust was rare, silence was power, and history moved at the pace of a man's footsteps through the mud. The day begins before the light. You're already awake when the rooster crows, but you don't move. You listen first. That is always the first task. Listen for footsteps, voices, the creak of boards, the hiss of a whisper in the dark. There is nothing but the soft breath of sleeping animals, and the steady thud of your own pulse in your ears. You rise slowly. You gather your things in silence, checking the ground where you slept. No sign you were here, except the faintest imprint in the hay. You brush it away with your foot. The habit is second nature. You never leave evidence. Not of rest, not of passage, not of anything. The road is cold and misted and gray. Your breath clouds as you walk. You take the long way around the town wall. Even though it adds an hour, it's safer. Too many eyes at the gates. Guards with questions. Curious shopkeepers. Street children with good memories. Even a moment's attention can grow dangerous later. You've learned that before too many times. You enter the town as it wakes through the lesser road near the tanner's yards. The stench is strong enough to cover other smells: sweat, leather, blood. Your face is wrapped in a scarf, not to hide, but to blend. Everyone covers their face here. You move through the alleys slowly, like someone with nowhere urgent to be. You observe. That's your real trade. The baker is already stacking loaves in the window. A merchant curses as he drops a bolt of cloth. A boy steals an apple and vanishes into smoke. You count the guards. 2 at the main gate, 3 on patrol. They move in pairs except one, young, distracted. He scratches his beard too often. You watch him for longer than the others. There are no grand entrances here. You don't meet secret agents in candlelit towers or receive cryptic notes by Dove. You wait and then you see it. A monk holder limping walking near the edge of the square. He holds a staff too tightly, but it's not the staff you're interested in. It's the scroll tucked beneath his arm. The seal is red, wax melted in the shape of an empty circle. You know the mark. It was agreed upon 2 winters ago in a different town, over different bread and different wine. You follow from a distance. You know the path he'll take. The monastery gates are open during morning prayer. You don't need to speak to him. You only need the scroll. By midday, it's in your hands. You wait until the church bells toll. Then, inside the shadows of a ruined cloister, you unroll the parchment. The writing is small, monastic Latin. The words are not obvious. They never are. It's a passage from the book of Ecclesiastes at first glance, but certain letters are heavier, inked twice. You recognize the code. It takes time to decipher. Each letter must be counted, compared, shifted. You use a small wax slate and a piece of chalk hidden in your pack. You copy nothing. Everything is temporary. Everything will be wiped clean. The message is simple. A name, a time, a place. 4 days from now, a public banquet. A nobleman hosting allies. The target is unnamed. That's normal. It will become clear only on the day. It always does. You're not told who. You're only told when and where. The rest is yours to discover and decide. The instructions are burned slowly, piece by piece, on a small iron plate. The ashes scattered in a nearby stream. You don't watch them float. You move on. Your next task is to become someone else. For the next 4 days you cannot be a traveler. The town is too small. Travelers are noticed. You must become useful. You find work with a local carpenter, offering to haul lumber for scraps of food. You say little. He's too busy to ask questions. You sleep in a shed. Your hands blister. You blend. You hear gossip in passing. About the banquet. About the nobleman. About tensions between 2 minor lords to the south. You piece it together like flint and tinder, slow and careful. You are not yet ready to strike. That part comes last. The real work begins long before the blade. You lie on your back that night and stare at the rafters. You count each beam, each nail, each splinter. You don't count sheep. You count shadows. This is how you survive, by learning the world better than it learns you tomorrow. You will continue to listen, and in that silence, you'll begin to understand who must not leave the banquet alive. The 3rd morning arrives with the scent of rain still clinging to the air. The storm passed during the night. You heard it moving in the distant roll of thunder across the plains, then the soft patter of rain on wooden shingles. It kept you awake for a while, not from fear, just awareness. The way an animal listens to the woods long after the wind stops. You rise before the carpenter does. You gather a bundle of discarded wood shavings, carry them outside the shed, and set them near the fire pit. The small gestures matter. They give shape to the role you're playing. A quiet helper. A man who asks for little and leaves behind no reason to be remembered. By midday, your body aches. Not from violence, but from repetition, bending, lifting, standing. There is a kind of pain in honest work that most men overlook. You notice it. You feel it deepen into your joints. It is familiar, not comforting. Just known. At the market square. The talk is louder now. The nobleman's banquet grows closer. It will be held in the great hall, a stone structure at the edge of the keep, near the inner bailey. Entry will be guarded. Only guests and servants permitted. You will not be a guest. So you begin to prepare your next disguise. Servant. It is the most common, the least questioned, and the hardest to maintain. Servants are everywhere, but they are also watched, expected to move a certain way, speak a certain way, belong to certain households. You cannot simply dress as one. You must become one. You find your opportunity in the stables. The stable master is old, angry, and overworked. He shouts more than he speaks. You offer your hands and keep your head low. You clean stalls for 2 days without pay, without thanks. It's exactly what you need. No one asks why you're there. They assume you were sent by someone else. That assumption is your shield. You learn the names of the horses, the rhythms of the guards, the way the kitchen boys sneak crusts from the pantry at dusk. You do not write any of this down. You memorize everything, the paths, the voices, the shapes of doorways. When you close your eyes at night, you trace the hallways in your mind like ink across parchment. Then, finally, you see him. The target. You recognize him not from a name or a face, but from how people treat him. They pause. When he speaks, they listen too carefully. They laugh too quickly. Power has a sound. It reshapes the air around it. He is tall, graying, a ring on every finger. He walks slowly, as if each step carries its own weight. You watch from the shadow of a stall as he passes. You don't move. You don't breathe. Not out of fear, but focus. His death has not been ordered. Not directly. You were told only the time and place, but everything else leads to him. The codes, the tone, the whispers between guards, the political tension between his house and others, the silence he leaves behind in every room. He is not evil, at least, not obviously. He is simply in the way. To someone, your job is not to know why. Your job is to make it look like an accident. That is the true skill, not in fighting, not in fleeing, but in crafting a death that invites no suspicion, that creates no martyr, that feels natural. Like an old tree finally giving way to rot, you begin to observe him closely. He drinks heavily. He eats quickly. He prefers red meats and rich cheeses. He has a personal servant, a boy, barely 15, frightened of his own shadow. You wait, you consider. Options. Poison is not a romantic thing. It is bitter, clumsy, prone to failure. Most substances kill slowly and messily, drawing attention. But there are others, less dramatic, more precise. A powdered mixture derived from certain dried roots, prepared in just the right ratio, added to wine. If the dose is too strong, the death looks strange. If the dose is too weak, the man only feels ill. But with care, just the right measure, it mimics the heart's failure. A sudden silence in the chest, no foaming at the mouth, no seizures, just stillness. You wait 3 more days. You remain invisible on the day of the banquet. You secure a place carrying water between the kitchens and the hall. You are given a brown robe, stained and patched. No one looks at you twice. You move slowly, always slowly. You mark the goblet the nobleman uses. It has a gold rim, a hawk engraved on the stem. It never leaves his table. You time your movement carefully. When the servant boy is called away, you are there. You do not touch the cup. You touch only the wine, a single drop. That is enough. You step away. You continue your route with the others. You hear the toast. You hear the music. You do not hear the fall, but you see the aftermath. Gasps, a crash, then silence, then chaos. You slip away in the confusion, through the stables. Into the night. You do not run, you walk. You leave the servant's robe behind a hedge, and change into the garments hidden beneath a tree root a mile from the gate. By the time the bell tolls midnight, you are no longer in the town. You are no longer anyone at all. And the man who needed to die has died, surrounded by friends. with a goblet in his hand and no suspicion of violence. That is your work, silent, slow, precise, not for glory, only for balance. You walk for days without speaking. Your path leaves no trace. Dirt roads give way to wooded trails. The distant sounds of pursuit never come. You are alone, but not at ease. There is no relief, only routine. You make camp beneath hedgerows. You boil water when you can find it clean. You sleep in bursts lightly, with your ears tuned to the world. You do not think of the man who died, not directly. His face remains in your memory, but you do not call it forward. The act is behind you now. You do not linger on what has passed. You only watch for what may come. Several villages pass beneath your feet. None stay in your mind for long. A mill with broken blades, a tavern with a crooked sign, a woman washing linens in a stream, humming an unfamiliar tune. You gather only what you need: dried bread, a pouch of oats, salt if you're lucky. You pay with silver that carries no stamp, coins rubbed smooth by time and travel. Eventually you reach the forest. It is not a specific destination, but a place you trust. A nameless wood between two minor borders, too deep for patrols, too wide for hunting parties. You know its trees. You know its hidden places. Here you pause, not for comfort, but because the quiet is needed. You know that the body can only move for so long without stillness. The mind even more so. And in the silence of the trees, you can once again breathe fully, without imagining another footstep just behind you. You build no fire, you eat cold, you sharpen your blade, though it was never drawn. The names of the dead do not rest heavily on you, but neither are they forgotten. You carry them, folded within you, like paper sealed in wax. You are not cruel, but you are not sentimental either. Emotion clouds, timing, hesitation costs lives. You learned that a long time ago, beneath a very different sky. The next day, meet someone. Not planned, but not entirely a surprise either. He wears no armor, no colors, just wool and leather. His beard is short, gray at the edges. He carries a satchel that looks heavier than it should be. You know him only by a false name, one you've used before. He calls you by another false name in return. The two of you do not shake hands. You sit a few paces apart, each watching the other's eyes without staring too long. He speaks first. The words are quiet, mostly ordinary. The shape of them matters more than the content. He does not ask what happened. He already knows. That's why he came. He gives you a sealed letter. You do not open it yet. He tells you where the next message will arrive. And when. A village, 2 fortnights from now, near the coast. You nod, then he leaves. That is how it always goes. Your life has no headquarters, no war room, no commanders barking orders. Just brief meetings in forgotten woods, between people who vanish when the conversation ends. The letter sits in your palm for several minutes before you break the seal. It contains more than you expect. Not another target, a reflection, a thank you. Strange, a note from a name you barely know, a name spoken in shadows. It says that your precision prevented a war, that the nobleman you took was planning something brutal, something public, something that would have left hundreds dead by winter. You do not believe all of it, but you allow yourself, briefly, to wonder if it's true. Then you burn the letter. The words linger only in your memory now. Like all the others, you spend 3 more days in the woods, not because you must, because you choose to. You wash your clothes in a river. You mend a tear in your boot. You find a fallen tree that smells of sap and sleep beneath it as rain falls gently through the leaves. You remember a name from your childhood, long unused. You do not say it aloud. Eventually, you return to the road. You pass a caravan merchants with bells on their carts, laughing too loudly. One of them offers you a ride. You decline. He shrugs and offers you dried figs. You take one and nod. He drives on. By the time the next village appears on the horizon, you have decided who you will become next. A scholar, a healer, a man of letters. It is easier to pass through the world when people assume you've spent your life with books, even if the only book you truly study is the human heart, and the many ways it can be stilled. The village where you next arrive is not marked on most maps. It lies between a dense stretch of pine woods and a slow-moving river that stains the rocks with iron. The houses are built low, from stone and thatch, and smoke from cook fires lingers in the air like a veil. No one greets you, but no one questions your arrival either. Travelers pass through often enough, usually traders or men looking for quiet work. You become a healer. It's not difficult. You know the basics well enough: how to bind wounds, how to recognize fever, how to crush herbs into usable poultices. Your hands move with care. You speak in a low voice. People trust you more when you speak gently. And trust is your greatest weapon. Your name here is Elias. You chose it from memory. You once heard a monk use it while reading from a worn scroll. It has a soft sound. It fits. You take residence in a small shed behind the mill. The owner, a widowed woman, asks no questions. You pay her in dried mushrooms and boiled bark that reduces the swelling in her knees. She nods in thanks and leaves you alone. Each morning begins the same. You wash your hands in cold water. You inspect the few tools you carry: an iron needle, a small blade, a length of boiled linen. You restock your supplies by walking into the woods with a basket. You collect leaves, bark, roots, berries, and sap. You know how to find what heals and what harms. No one suspects you of anything. To them, you are useful. And usefulness is a shield. One morning a boy is brought to you, no more than 8 years old. He's fallen into a pit and broken his leg. His father carries him, sweat on his brow, panic in his voice. You don't ask how it happened. You examine the leg, feel for the break, hear the soft grind of bone. You look into the boy's eyes and tell him to breathe deeply. You set the bone with 2 pieces of wood, softened cloth, and a firm binding. The boy screams once and then weeps. His father thanks you 3 times before leaving. He offers a bundle of carrots in payment. You accept. This is your life for now. Not all of it is false. That is the strange thing. In helping others, you sometimes forget what brought you here. You watch a mother rock her child to sleep and wonder briefly what your own mother looked like. You've forgotten. Or maybe you never knew. At night you sit by the window, a candle flickering beside you, and read from an old herbal written in Latin. You pretend to study it. You already know the contents by heart. Still, the act is calming. The Latin brings structure to your thoughts, but peace never stays long. You begin to notice someone watching you. A boy, older than most, maybe 16, thin, sharp eyes. He doesn't speak to you, but he's always nearby carrying water, sweeping the street, loitering outside the church. At first you think it's nothing. Then you catch him staring. You nod. To him one day, he doesn't nod back. It's possible he suspects. Or it's possible he's simply curious. Curiosity is dangerous in quiet places. You prepare for the worst. Even as you hope it won't come to that, you change the direction of your walks. You stop collecting herbs at the same time each day. You alter your routine in small, barely noticeable ways. And you wait. Days pass. Then one evening, the boy disappears. No one says where he went. You hear a rumor he was taken for questioning by a traveling magistrate. Another says he ran off with stolen bread. You know the truth is probably somewhere in between. You keep your bag packed, just in case, and then without ceremony the letter arrives. It's folded into the pages of the herbal. No wax seal this time. Just a brief message in coded phrasing, tucked into the margin beside a passage on yew bark and its properties. You understand the meaning. The target is near. You were placed here for a reason, even if you didn't see it at first. The town priest, that is the name that emerges again and againstly. The herbal contains 3 passages on funeral rites, marked in red ink, a mention of sermons gone unusually long. A town led into quiet unrest, not violent, just uneasy. People afraid to speak their doubts aloud. You observe the priest more closely. He is charismatic. He smiles too often. He touches people's shoulders when they speak, a gesture meant to suggest comfort. But there's something rehearsed about it, something cold beneath the warmth. You attend mass. You watch. You count 12 steps from altar to nave. 5 guards stationed at the corners of the square. No visible weapons inside the church. The priest drinks wine from a silver goblet. He pours it himself. No chance for poison. That would be too simple, too sloppy. You consider alternatives. His pattern is regular. He walks alone each night from the church to his chambers. No escort. No torch, just the glow of the moon on stone. It would be easy to ambush him, but that's not the assignment. It must appear as something else. A fall, a moment of misstep on wet stones, an accident. You wait for rain. It comes 3 days later, a heavy storm, the kind that washes away footprints and memory alike. You watch from behind the low wall. You see the figure emerge, hooded, hunched against the wind. The priest walks faster than usual. You step from the alley, just as he passes. You do not draw a weapon, you do not speak, you bump into him. Hard, he stumbles, turns, slips, his head strikes the edge of a barrel beside the wall. It is quick, too quick. He is gone before the thunder fades. You kneel beside him, place a hand gently on his shoulder, as if trying to help. Someone yells from a window. You raise your hands. You shout for help. People come running. They assume you tried to save him. You are a healer after all. Who would doubt your intentions? Later, in your small shed, you wash your hands. There is blood beneath your nails. You sleep without dreams. In the morning, the village is quieter. Not sad, just still. The priest is buried without much ceremony. Another arrives to replace him a week later. You are already gone. You leave the village at dawn. No one watches you go. Your pack is light. Your feet sore from days spent in shoes meant more for blending in than for long walking. You take the north road, though the letter didn't specify a direction. It's instinct. You follow the rivers, where the roads are smoother and people more predictable. The land changes as you travel. The forests become thinner, the fields wider. You pass farmland, tilled by heavy oxen, and hear the shouts of boys chasing geese. The towns you reach are larger now. They have walls, not strong ones, but enough to mark that you are entering a place of rules, hierarchy, order. You feel it in the way people look at you. Here names matter more. So do papers, seals, connections. You become someone else again. This time, a scribe, a modest job, safe and visible. You wear a thin robe of gray wool and carry a small collection of ink pots, a quill, and 2 sheets of carefully aged parchment. Unbelievable, meaningless script. No one examines them closely. They see the stains on your fingers, the way you squint when asked a question. And they believe. The city is larger than any place you've stayed in years. Its streets wind in tight curves. Houses lean toward each other, their wooden beams stretching like arms overhead. At night, the air smells of smoke, meat, and damp wool. Cats skitter across rooftops. Somewhere a lute plays through a window, long after curfew. You rent a room above, a cobbler's shop. It is small, cold, the ceiling leaks when it rains, but it's enough. You pay in advance and keep to yourself. The cobbler's wife brings you stew on the first night. You thank her, speak little. She nods and leaves. This is how you prefer it. You spend your days in the city records hall. It is an ideal place for someone like you. No one asks why you came. There are always too many names to track, too many accounts to file. You sit beside monks with weary eyes, merchants filing complaints, clerks scratching symbols into old ledgers. You study everything but leave no trace. One afternoon, a man enters. He is not important on the surface. A notary, middle-aged, with dry hands and thin shoes. But you've heard his name before in the margins of letters passed quietly in candlelit rooms. He is part of a network, though not the kind you serve. He trades information, not lives. You follow him, not right away. That would be noticed. You wait, you watch, you learn his path. He leaves the records hall each evening and walks to a chapel near the docks. He speaks with no one. He kneels at the altar for 10 minutes, always the same. Then he continues to a tavern, where he drinks alone. He stays until curfew, then returns to a room rented above a cooper's shop. The letter you carry hidden in the lining of your coat mentions him. Indirectly, it speaks of a leak. A series of names revealed to the wrong people. A trail of deaths that were not meant to happen. His name appears in ink that's been scratched out, rewritten, scratched again. You are not told to kill him, only to find out the truth. But you already know that. Truth rarely comes clean. You decide to make contact. This is not usual, but sometimes. Information must be drawn like poison from a wound. You follow him again. One evening, you step into the chapel after he kneels. You sit 3 pews behind him and bow your head. You say nothing, but he glances. Back he recognizes something in you. Not your face. Something else. A stillness. He leaves 5 minutes early. You follow. This time he speaks first. His voice is quiet. His words chosen. He tells you he knows who you are and not your name, but your purpose. He says he has no choice. That he was forced to give information. That people close to him were threatened. You do not ask who threatened him. You already know. That men like him often serve many masters. You give him a choice not spoken, but implied. He understands. The next day, he leaves the city. No one sees him again. You report this in the way you've been trained, without ink, without words, through a sign passed to a woman selling dried fish near the gates. She takes it, nods once, and disappears. Your task is complete, but the city holds you longer than expected. There is a festival approaching. Stalls begin appearing in the squares. Lanterns are hung from ropes stretched between buildings. Children race through alleyways with painted sticks, laughing. You feel out of place. One night, you walk the streets without purpose. A woman sings in a language you don't know. A man plays a flute made of bone. A baker hands you a roll for free. Too much bread left at the end of the day. You take it. You sit by a low wall and eat in silence. For a moment, you imagine a different life. Not one of missions or messages. Just days filled with bread and faces you don't have to forget. But the moment passes. You hear a bell ring in the distance to short chimes. A signal. You rise, dust crumbs from your cloak, and move once more toward the edge of the city. The festival continues behind you, lights glowing softly in the dark. You do not look back. The road to the castle is long and muddy. You travel on foot, as most do, with a satchel slung over one shoulder and a cloak too thin for the cold wind that rides across the hills. You keep your eyes low and your posture humble. You do not arrive as a warrior or nobleman. You arrive as a servant. At the gate, no one challenges you. There is always need for more hands in places where power gathers. The court swells in autumn. Ambassadors, merchants, clergymen, entertainers, cooks, tailors, clerks. You pretend to be one of them. Your papers are false, but convincing. The seal is made from pressed wax and an iron ring you found in an abandoned chapel weeks ago. You are given a room in the lower quarter of the keep. Beneath the kitchen, it is dark, damp. Stone walls sweat in the night. You do not mind. Above you, life is full of movement. Maids carry linens through the halls. Soldiers practice drills in the courtyard. Messengers arrive breathless, their horses foaming. The lord of the castle is preparing for a royal visit, though it is not clear when or if the king will come. Your new name is Tomas. You wear simple clothing. You volunteer for cleaning duties. Your hands remain busy as scrubbing flagstones, fetching buckets, wiping soot from iron grates. You say little, but smile when spoken to. People like those who smile without speaking too much. You watch everything. The lord is a cautious man. He eats behind a curtain. Even at his own table, he keeps a taster at his side. He rarely leaves the upper floors of the keep, except to walk in the garden with 2 guards a few steps behind him. He carries a book he never reads. It is part of his image, a sign of wisdom. You are told that he once ordered a stable boy whipped for standing too close. This tells you much. He values control more than loyalty. He fears betrayal more than open war. You begin your approach slowly. You offer to tend the fires in the steward's office. You are quiet, reliable, invisible. After a week, you are asked to help carry inventory scrolls to the treasurer. There, you count grain, salted meat, and dried peas. You do not ask questions. You simply nod and record. People begin to trust you. It is not a deep trust, but enough. One evening, you are summoned by the steward himself. He is old. His hands tremble. He mistakes your name at first. Then he tells you he needs help delivering a message to the chapel. You go, of course. You walk the corridor slowly, carefully. You observe the guards. You mark the doors with rusted hinges. You count how long it takes to reach the chapel from the great hall. 3 minutes, at a steady pace. Longer if burdened. There is a statue near the chapel's entrance. An angel with one wing chipped. You touch its base as you pass. There is a slot there, just wide enough for a folded page. You file that away. Information matters more than blades in places like this. That night, in your room, you draw the castle from memory. You label the halls, the guards, the routes of patrol. You trace the servant tunnels and the hidden doors, two of which you've already found. You do this by candlelight, slowly, patiently. You hide the map beneath a loose stone in the corner of the floor. The letter arrives 2 days later. It is not addressed to you. It is wrapped in a cloth inside a crate of dried beans delivered to the kitchen. You find it while sorting. No one notices when you slip it into your sleeve. The letter is brief, one sentence, in cipher. The falcon sings in winter. You understand? The meaning. The Lord must die before the season turns. But it must look like natural death. No blade, no poison, easily traced. You consider what you know. He drinks only from his own sealed wine casks. He eats food only after it is tasted by another. He bathes in boiled water. You wait, you watch. You learn something new each night. Just after midnight, he visits the library. He believes no one knows, but you do. He goes alone, carrying his book, though he never opens it. He enters the room and closes the door behind him. You discover that he sleeps there, sometimes beneath the large window, behind a curtain embroidered with lions. The window is old. Its glass is thin. You test the roof access 2 nights in a row. No guards patrol it after midnight. No one checks the gutters. You could enter and exit in under 5 minutes. But you wait longer still. You want certainty. One night, you slip into the library before he arrives. You hide behind the tapestry on the east wall, where the dust smells of mildew and rat droppings. You wait. He enters. He does not light a candle. He walks to the window and opens it slightly. He stands there, breathing in the night air, as if trying to convince himself he is still alive. You step forward once. Then you stop. You do nothing. This is not the night. Patience is your greatest weapon. He leaves. You remain in place until the moon has passed overhead. You breathe slowly, steadily. The next morning, the castle is alive with noise. There is word that the king will arrive in 4 days. The entire court is frantic. You know this is your moment. Distraction is the best cover. On the second night of preparation, during the feast rehearsal, you climb the roof. You move across it like a shadow. No one sees you. You remove the pane of glass you loosened. 2 days earlier, you lower yourself in. The library is empty. You wait in silence. He arrives. He does not see. You step behind him. You press a cloth soaked in hemlock and vinegar to his mouth. He struggles briefly, then stiffens. You lower him to the floor. His eyes remain open. You arrange his body gently. You place his book on his chest. You leave through the same window the next day. The castle mourns the king never arrives. You are given leave to depart. Since your duties are no longer required, you walk, no one stops you. Your name is forgotten before nightfall. The road that leads you away from the castle is dry and wide at first, worn down by the hooves of nobles and the wheels of supply carts. It stretches toward the horizon like a thought you're not ready to finish. You walk alone, as always, and you make no mark. Dust gathers on your boots. The sun is a dull disk above, barely rising through a pale layer of cloud. 3 villages lie ahead. Only one of them matters. You do not go straight there. You meander, pausing in quiet inns, offering odd jobs in exchange for soup and silence. You shear sheep on a hilltop one morning, pretending to fumble with the shears. You milk goats under the eye of a farmer who says nothing and never asks where you came from. At night you lie beneath open sky and listen to the wind in the grass. It has been over a decade since you last saw the village you're headed toward. It did not have a name, only a stream and a chapel, and 5 houses scattered like coins across the fields you left when it burned, when riders came through in the night, when you were still young enough to cry but old enough to run. You do not know what you hope to find there, but your latest message told you to return. There were no names, only one line: old fires leave hot ashes. It is enough. When you finally reach the place, nothing looks as it did. The path is overgrown. Trees lean where once there were gardens. The chapel is a shillit's stone walls blackened by fire, its wooden doors long gone. Ivy climbs through the altar window. A crow perches on what used to be the steeple. You stand in the middle of the village and close your eyes. The sound of burning still lives somewhere. In your bones you remember voices, shouting, screaming, begging. You remember the smell of fear. You remember a woman's hand pulling yours, and how it let go too soon. No one survived, they said. And yet someone left you a message. You check the place where the well once stood. It's collapsed, filled with stones and weeds. You walk the perimeter of the village slowly, letting your feet lead instead of your mind. In the ruins of the largest house, what might have once been a milieu, find a mark carved into stone, an old symbol. The language is familiar only to those trained like you. It means look deeper. You dig in the dirt. There is a hollow space. You pull free a leather satchel sealed with wax. Inside, 3 things. A torn scrap of parchment with a name you haven't heard in years. A child's wooden toy burned on one side, still smelling of smoke, and a dagger that does not belong to you. You sit down on a stone, heart slower than it should be. The name is hers. The woman who raised you. The woman who vanished when the fires came. The woman you believed dead. But the seal on the parchment, it is recent. Within the last year, someone brought this here. You are not alone in remembering. You spend the night in what remains of the chapel, not because it is safe, but because it is necessary. You light no fire. You eat a piece of hard bread. You listen to the trees creak in the wind, and the occasional rustle of some unseen animal moving through underbrush. You do not sleep at dawn. You return to the sakiel. You unwrap the parchment again. On the back of the page, a second mark is written, one you recognize instantly. A meeting point. An old bridge to valleys east, used only by those in your order. You leave the village without looking back. There is nothing here for you anymore. But there may be something beyond it. You travel east. The weather turns colder, the land flattens, mist rolls in from the riverbeds. You follow the path toward the bridge. It is made of stone, arched gently, like a bow strung in rest. You wait beneath it, in the hollow where fishermen used to keep their nets. 3 hours pass, then footsteps. You do not reach for your blade. A figure emerges from the mist. She is older now. Her hair is gray, her walk slower. But the shape of her hands, the line of her eyes, they are as you remember. She sits beside you and says nothing. You wait. Eventually, she speaks. I saw you when you left. She says you were too young to know, but I followed. I left you in safe hands. Then I disappeared. You do not ask why. She explains anyway. There were names on a list, she says. My name, yours. They were hunting us. You sit in silence as she describes a war you never saw. A purge. A betrayal within your order. A time when those trained in silence were suddenly turned upon by their own. She survived by vanishing. You survived by forgetting. Now those old scars have been uncovered again. You are being pulled back into something older, deeper than you realized. She presses the dagger into your hands. It belonged to him, she says. You don't ask who, you already know. The man who trained you, the man who sent you on your first mission, the man who died before he could finish telling you why. You hold the dagger. It is heavier than it looks. She stands. I have to go, she says. You nod. She walks away and does not look back. You remain under the bridge until nightfall, when the stars emerge. You set the dagger beside you and close your eyes. For the first time in years, your sleep is dreamless. The forest before you is deep and slow. It absorbs sound, swallows birdsong, and replaces it with the quiet groan of bows bending under their own age. You move through it like smoke, parting ferns with your fingers, stepping only on moss, never on branches. There is no hurry. Your path is set. 3 days ago, you left the bridge. You have not seen another soul since. You carry with you the dagger, the parchment with the marked symbol, and a length of dried meat wrapped in waxed cloth. You drink from springs, eat sparingly, and rest only in the trees where the undergrowth is too tangled for wolves to reach. Your goal is an abbey, not a grand one, a forgotten cloister, tucked into the spine of a mountain range, wrapped in vines and fog. It was once a stronghold of your order, long before the schism, when the teachings were passed through illuminated manuscripts, not whispered blood oaths. The place is now known only in fragments of stories. But your memory is precise. You have traced the map before. You have followed the river that curls like a rope around a crag. You have counted the stone markers buried at the forest edge, symbols only those in the order would recognize. On the fourth evening, you find the threshold. A worn stone arch stands crooked between two birch trees. The abbey is beyond. You descend a slope into a narrow ravine. Ivy chokes the walls. A fallen statue of St. Luther leans sideways into a shallow pool, its face worn smooth by time. There are no monks now, only memories and the dry rustle of parchment. You pass through a cracked door into the main hall. Roof is open to the sky in places, letting in beams of silver moonlight that strike old pews and shattered icons. Vines creep across the altar. Dust hangs like mist in the air, and yet some things are untouched. The library, hidden behind a sliding wall panel, remains sealed. You press the symbol in the panel's corner, a circle within a triangle. It clicks. The wall opens. A cold breath of air escapes. You step into the dark. The shelves are narrow, carved from stone. The manuscripts are bound in dark leather, stitched with sinew. The smell is ancient ink, mold, beeswax, dust. You light a single taper and begin your search. You are looking for records from the early days of the order. For names, for movements, for disappearances. Hours pass. You find accounts of training regimens, notes on poisons, diagrams of escape tunnels. You find no mention of your master, but you do find something else. A letter, dated nearly 20 years earlier. It references a council meeting held in secret, away from the grand chapter. It lists 4 names, all of whom were later declared dead during this. But one name is crossed out, damned, replaced with a mark, the same mark on your dagger's hilt. You study it closely. It's not just a signature. It's a symbol of rank, a rank higher than you thought existed, above masters, above mentors. A hidden circle. The keepers. You realize then that the man who trained you was not merely a teacher. He was one of them, and someone wanted him gone. You sit back, heart steady, breathing slow. The pieces begin to form a pattern. Your first missions were never about simple targets. They were tests to see how close you could get, to measure your silence, to weigh your loyalty. Your survival was not an accident. It was a plan. And now, someone is trying to awaken that plan. You hear movement not far. You extinguish the taper. Someone else is here. You move silently through the stone corridor. The sound comes from the chapel above. You climb the side passage, keeping your blade loose in your hand. You see the figure before they see you, a man cloaked, kneeling at the altar. He is not praying, he is placing something beneath the altar stone. ASAT. You wait until he steps back. Then you speak, low and even. What do you want? He freezes, turns slowly. His face is familiar, but you cannot name it. He does not answer your question. Instead, he says, you found the mark. You nod once. He smiles faintly. Then you're ready. He kneels again and pushes the satchel toward you. Inside are scrolls, maps, and a seal you do not recognize. He says only one word. You blink. It is the name of a city. An old one, walled, dying once a port, now landlocked by shifting soil and forgotten trade routes. You remember a story, a keeper's vault buried beneath its ruined temple. You take the satchel. When you look up, the man is gone. The abbey is still, silent again. You sleep in the old cellars that night, among broken wine casks and crumbled mosaics. You dream of doors you cannot open and staircases that descend forever. In the morning, you leave for Istron. The wind carries the faint scent of ash. The road to Istron is longer than it appears on any map. Once a thriving trade artery, it is now little more than a thread of broken stones, overgrown in places, washed away in others. The route weaves through low valleys where fog lingers, curls, along hills where crows sit on bare branches, and disappears into the folds of forgotten hamlets, marked only by crumbling milestones and the sound of wind in the grass. You travel without haste. The city isn't going anywhere. Each morning you rise with the sun, and each night you find a quiet place to rest, sometimes in a ruined barn, sometimes under a fallen tree, sometimes in a wayside shrine abandoned to moss and memory. You carry the satchel you were given at the abbey. You have not yet opened the scrolls. There is a sense they are meant for later, when the city is beneath your feet. After 5 days, you reach the outskirts of Strand. It is not as you remember. If anything, it is smaller, shrunk by time and neglect. The great walls, once whitewashed and proud, are chipped and patched with mismatched stone. The guard towers lean slightly, as if weary from watching too long. No flags fly, no gates creak. Opened, the city holds its breath like something sleeping. You enter through a broken section of the wall. No one stops you. Within the city, the streets are narrow and uneven. Grass grows between the stones. The houses lean inward like gossiping old men. Their shutters half closed, their doors ajar. A stray cat slinks past your boots. Somewhere, a bell tolls. Though you see no tower standing, you are looking for the Temple of the Three Lights. It was once a sanctuary for pilgrims, a place where the sun, moon, and star deities were worshipped in harmony. But that was centuries ago. After the fall of the old religion, the temple was sealed. Rumors claimed it was used for darker rituals afterward. None were ever proven, but the keepers. They chose such places for their hidden vaults, not because they were sacred, but because they were forgotten. You find the temple by scent before Saitan, old perfume of dust, wax, and cold stone. Its great dome is cracked. Vines trail down from its crown like green waterfalls. The entrance is sealed with boards nailed in a rush, and an iron lock rusts in place. You do not force it. You walk around the side and find a smaller door, half buried in soil and branches. It yields with a groan. Inside, it is cold, not with the chill of air, but with the kind of cold that lingers in places not visited often. Unmoved, thick like syrup. The air tastes of damp earth and old rituals. You light a small oil lamp and begin your descent. The floor tiles are worn with use. The walls are carved with symbols, but most are obscured now by soot and decay. The deeper you go, the less the temple resembles a house of worship. The statues vanish. The paintings peel away. Instead, there are simple geometric lines, arrows pointing inwards, and steps that grow narrower. Sharper dot. Finally, you reach a chamber. Square. Silent, dry dot at its center. A stone altar, plain, unadorned, and clean. Around it. First, faceless, life-sized, you approach. On the altar is a small depression, circular and shallow. You remove the seal from your satchel, the one you have not yet examined closely. Now, in this chamber, it glows faintly in your hand. A trick of the light, perhaps, or something more. You place it into the depression. The altar rumbles, then descends. Slowly, silently, below it steps, winding like a helix, into the dark. You follow them down. What lies beneath is not a vault in the traditional sense. There are no piles of gold, no weapons, no scrolls, only shelves. And within those shelves, rows upon rows of memory. Books, bound in leather. Unlabeled. Boxes, sealed in wax, marked with years. Scrolls tied with silk ribbon, each bearing the same symbol, the eye within the triangle. These are the records of the keepers. You move among them carefully. Eventually, you find the one that bears your year of birth. It is a ledger. The entries are precise names, dates, actions, evaluations. You find your name, you find your masters, you find the word marked. There is a note beside it. Subject advanced beyond expectations. Trajectory altered, watch for deviation. Below that, a symbol you have not seen before, an inverted triangle, pierced by a line. There is no key to decode it. You look for other ledgers. You find one marked distant. Within dozens of names, most are marked eliminated. A few, very few, are marked unknown. One is marked infiltrated. The name beside it is yours. You sit on the floor. There is no anger, not yet. Only the slow cooling of blood. That comes with understanding. You were never simply an apprentice. You were a test of variable. They watched you as one watches a blade cooling in water, to see if it would crack or hold its edge. And now, perhaps, they are watching still. From the far corner of the vault, a breeze stirs the dust. You rise. Someone has opened a door that should not be open. You extinguish your lamp. You disappear into the shelves. Whoever is coming does not know you are already waiting. The vault is still now. Dust settles. The faintest flicker of wind stirs the edge of a hanging parchment. You press your back to the stone wall, still and steady, and let your breath match the rhythm of the silence. The footsteps are faint, but presence solves, deliberate, not hurried. Whoever enters is no common thief. They are familiar with quiet, familiar with darkness. You step between shelves, moving like the shadow of a shadow. Each step lands in a space of silence. You do not reach for your blade, not yet. The assassin's path is not always paved in blood. Sometimes, listening is the greater weapon. The figure stops. They are near the center of the vault now. By the altar's empty cavity, you see them only in glimpses. Dark cloak, slight build, a gloved hand holding a lantern low to the ground. They do not call out. That means they are not searching for someone they know, or they do not wish to be heard by others. You circle slowly, keeping to the edge. Closer, closer. Now you see their face, lit in flickers. You know them, not from memory, but from a sketch one you saw years ago, pinned to a wall in the great hall of reeds, where all the faces of the vanished were kept. Their name was thought lost in the desert uprising, but it was clear now they had not vanished. They had retreated. They are a keeper, their presence here is no accident. They reach down and slide a scroll from the shelves, quick, practiced, not curious, not investigating, retrieving. Something is being activated. You step out of the shadows. Don't turn, you say softly. The figure freezes, then lowers the lantern. Their voice is calm, almost uncertain. I wondered if you would come. You remain still. This place was locked. The lock wasn't meant to keep us out, they reply. Only the uninvited. And yet here we are. They finally turn, slowly, holding the lantern in front of them. Their face is lined with age, but their eyes are alert. You don't know what this is, they say, motioning to the vault. I know enough. No. You suspect. There's a difference. You step closer. You marked me. They nod. We did. Watched me again. A nod. Used me. At this they pause. Their expression shifts, something between regret and resignation. We guided you, they say, not used. There was always a choice. You study them. Was there? They hold up the scroll. This is why I came, not to stop you, to warn you. You do not answer. There is another faction, they continue, voice low, a true splinter, not rebels, something older. They call themselves the Foundation. The word is unfamiliar. They believe the order has become too reactive. The keeper continues, too reliant on memory. They seek to return it to its origin before records, before codes. They wish to erase the ledger, including those still living. Yes, you weigh their words. If they know I'm here, they do. They've known since the Abbey. A silence follows. Heavy pressing. Istron was supposed to be buried, they say, but someone reactivated it. Not us. Them. You feel it now, not fear. Not yet, but the deep understanding of danger, coiling around the edge of your awareness. How many, you ask? Too many. You gesture to the shelves. What's worth killing for here? Names, they say. Real ones, old ones. Secrets of lineage, of funding, of creation. You understand now, not just the who, but the why. To control the order, one must erase its past. You look around the vault again. This can't stay here. The keeper nods. I can't carry it alone. You say you won't. Together, you begin selecting key scrolls. Not all, there's no time for that. Only those marked with the symbol of succession, those that trace the transfer of power between the ages. As you pack them into oilskin satchels, the keeper speaks again. There is a place north of the salt flats, a sanctuary beneath the stone fields. They do not know of it. You nod, then you both pause. A sound above. Stone shifting, not footsteps. A detonation, the upper floor collapsing inward. They are here now. The keeper presses a wax-stamped coin into your palm. This will open the gate below the cistern. They say, go. What about you? I'll make noise. You'll die. They smile faintly, perhaps. Or perhaps I'll live long enough to see them fail. You look once more at the shelves, now dimming as the dust thickens in the air. Then you vanish into the narrow path behind the third shelf. The one you noticed earlier, barely an opening, meant for one. The tunnel is low and damp. It curves downward, always downward. You feel the heat of flame behind you. The vault is burning, the past is being erased, but you carry the proof, and they will not find you easily. Hours later, when you emerge near the salt springs under the silvering sky, you feel the weight of more than scrolls on your back. You carry the burden of memory, and the Order's last hope. You do not travel by road now. Roads are for those who wish to be seen, remembered, followed. You slip into the forgotten paths, the veins of the land that lie beneath the maps. Sheep trails, smugglers' passes, dry riverbeds and broken aqueducts. You follow the land's older lines. The satchel presses into your spine with every step. Not heavy but present a constant reminder. The scrolls within are fragile, yet more dangerous than any weapon. If taken, they could expose generations. If destroyed, the truth they hold would be lost forever. So you walk with care, with silence, with purpose. The salt flats open ahead of you, like a sea made of ash. Wide, white, flat, and seemingly endless. They stretch beyond the horizon, shimmering under the pale sun. The air is dry, and every breath tastes like stone and silence. The ground crunches underfoot, crystalline and slick. Few things survive here. You will not be followed easily, but nor can you afford mistakes. You begin the crossing at dawn. By midday the sun is a white disk overhead. You wrap your scarf tighter around your face and lower your gaze. The heat is deceptive. It doesn't burn the skin so much as it slowly cooks the body from within. You sip water in small mouthfuls. Though it is warm and slightly bitter, it must last out. Your mind drifts. It is dangerous to remember too much out here. The silence becomes an echo chamber, and every memory is louder than it should be. You recall the vault beneath this trant. The stone shelves, the keeper's calm eyes, the explosion. You remember the word they used, foundation. Not a rebellion, not a splinter, a root. You wonder how far back they go, who truly formed the Order, who decided that memory would be our weapon, who wrote the first ledger, and most haunting of all, who has been erasing names since. Night falls over the flats like ink spilling on parchment. There are no trees, no caves, only sky and dust and your own heartbeat. You do not light a fire. You eat in silence, a piece of dried fig, a strip of cold meat. You mark the stars in the north, the constellation of the I. In the west, the archer kneeling. The stars are constant. They ask no questions. They offer no comfort. You sleep in short bursts. Every sound wakes you. A settling stone, a shifting breeze, the imagined hush of footsteps behind you. But no one comes. On the third day, you find the place. It is barely more than a fisherhand, uneven, split in a slab of gray rock, half covered by a tumble of stones. The coin the keeper gave you fits into a circular indentation carved into the base. When it clicks, the earth moans faintly, and a narrow section of stone rolls inward. Inside, it is cool, dry still. The passage slopes downward again, always downward, until the light is gone entirely. You light a small oil lamp and see the path, marked by shallow grooves, lungs used for carts. Long ago, the tunnel is older than anything you've walked before. Older even than is Tran. You wonder, who built it? Not the Order. Before them, perhaps. Or perhaps the Order began here, in this hollow place of silence and stone. After an hour, the path opens into a chamber, round with a domed ceiling, and walls covered in faded frescoes. Scenes of men with of women planting knives in the roots of trees, of owls with keys hanging from their beaks. The symbolism is overwhelming. The language lost, but the meaning breathes. You are not the first, and you may not be the last. You set the satchel down. There is a pedestal in the center of the room, made of black glass or obsidian. As you approach, a mechanism within the pedestal whirs softly. A lid slides open. Inside an empty cradle, the scrolls fit perfectly. The pedestal closes again. Somewhere in the stone above, a low pulse begins, a rhythmic beat, like a heart too. Far beneath the skin to be seen, the records are safe, but your work is not finished. You sit by the wall, legs crossed, and close your eyes. You allow your body to rest, but not fully. Sleep will not come easily now. You have done what was necessary, but not what is right, because the foundation remains, and the keeper may already be dead, and you are not entirely sure who you are. Anymore, you are no longer a simple assassin. You are not just a tool, you are something else, something in between. You wake after a few hours and begin to write your own ledger, not for the order, not for the foundation, for yourself. You write your name, not the one they gave you, but the one you remember as a child. You write your first kill, not the official one, but the one that still appears in your dreams. You write the names of those who trained you, those who lied to you, and those who told you the truth without words. And then you close the book and seal it with wax. You do not hide it. You place it beside the pedestal. If someone finds it, so be it. If they read it, let them understand. You rise and leave the chamber. Without looking back, the tunnel closes behind you. The salt flats wait, but your path no longer leads home. It leads into the heart of something deeper, something darker, and perhaps something final. The wind returns with the dawn. It moves in wide, listless sweeps across the salt, lifting fine particles into the morning light. You rise and begin walking again, your boots worn smooth on the soles, your scarf stiff with salt. You keep your thoughts shallow, like a skiff on calm water, never allowing them to dip too deeply into memory. The vault is gone. The records are hidden. The keeper is likely dead. You are alone, but not idle. You move northward. Beyond the flats lies a range of old stone hills, covered with shale and brittle moss. In the past, these were known as the Hollowbacks, a natural fortress that shielded the inner valleys from southern raids. They have long since been abandoned, too dry, too remote, too riddled with collapsed mines and venomous insects to be of value. And yet, it is here that you begin to see signs. The first is simpler, rusted pin hammered into a slab of stone, nearly invisible save for the triangular symbol etched at its tip. Not a sigil of the order, but not unfamiliar. The foundation. They leave fewer marks than the order, less like breadcrumbs, more like silent threads. You follow the trail over ridges and down narrow paths. At dusk, you find a flat stretch of rock, just wide enough to sleep on. The sky turns gold, then silver, then ink black. You do not light a fire. You curl against the cold stone and listen to the silence, waiting for a sound that never comes. The next day brings you into a crevice, where a small stream once carved a winding passage through the cliffs. The walls are high and narrow here. You move slowly, each footstep echoing more than you'd like. After an hour, the walls open slightly, and you spot something carved into the right-hand cliff face, an old door. It is half covered in dust and rock, but the iron studs are still visible. It opens outward. You listen before approaching, pressing your palm to the stone, sensing for movement, vibration, warmth. Nothing. You pull gently, and with a groan, the door yields. Inside, darkness. The air is dry, cool, ancient. You step forward. The corridor stretches ahead, lined with cracked tiles. The architecture is different from what you've seen in Istron or the southern sanctuaries. The design is older columns with no ornament, arches built for function, not beauty. This was not a place of worship. This was storage, possibly war. You find remnants, a broken training weapon, a faded piece of armor, a cot rotted through by time. Whoever lived here left in a hurry or long ago. But then, as you pass beneath a heavy beam of scorched wood, you see something newer, a lantern, still intact, still clean. Recently used. You are not the only one who remembers this place. You slow your pace. A soft scraping sound reaches your ears. Not ahead, behind. You turn, knife already in hand. Nothing, but the air is different now. Weighted you back into a room. Off the corridor, where shadows cling thick against the ceiling. You crouch. Wait. A breath. Not your own. Someone else is here. A figure steps into view, cloaked, masked, hands empty, but posture alert. They do not speak. You don't move. Then slowly, they reach into their cloak, not for a weapon, but for a token. They toss it at your feet. A small metal disc, etched with the shape of a tree missing its roots. You've seen this before. Years ago, a story told in whispers. Those who abandon the order and survive do not vanish. They are given a new name, the uprooted ones. Assassins, now something else. The figure finally speaks, their voice muffled but clear. You shouldn't be here. You remain still. Neither should you. I was born here. They say Istron is gone. You reply, I know. The silence stretches. You glance at the coin again. You're one of them. The figure shrugs slightly. Names don't matter anymore, but allegiances do. A pause then. I'm not with the Foundation, but I know what they're doing, and it's worse than you think. You wait for them to continue. They aren't just erasing the past, they're rewriting it. They've created a false history, buried real names, reassigned kills, created founders who never existed. Your chest tightens. To what end? They want to control recruitment, control faith, control memory, and the Order doesn't even know it's already dead. You consider the words, if true. Then the Order has become a shadow of itself, not corrupted by greed or power, but by forgetfulness. And the Foundation does not fight them, it replaces them. The figure motions for you to follow. This place, they say, was one of the first testing halls. Before the Order had codes, before there were tenets, just lessons in silence, endurance, obedience, and killing. No, they say killing came later. You follow them through the corridor. There are cells here, small, cold, forgotten. Symbols are etched into the walls. Some you recognize, others predate even your oldest training texts. The figure stops at a circular stone door, resting their palm on a sigil. You want to stop them, they say. You can't do it alone, you nod. You need to see what they're building. The door opens with a low rumble. Inside is a spiral stair that descends into the earth. You hesitate. Then step through. What waits below will change everything. The stairs are ancient. Each step bears the wear of 1,000 feet, many of them no longer alive. You descend slowly, the air growing cooler with every turn. The walls narrow, close, then widen again, like a tunnel bored by something not quite human. There are no torches, no lanterns. The uprooted walks ahead with confidence, a small glass pendant around their neck, glowing faintly with greenish light. Alchemical, not magical, and certainly not comforting. You descend for a long time. There is no measure of distance here, no sun or moon to follow, just the turning downward spiral. Your muscles begin to ache from the constant descent, but you remain silent. The figure ahead does not speak. In a way, the quiet is a language of its own. Finally, you reach the bottom. The stairs end in a round antechamber, surprisingly clean. The stone here is smoother, almost polished. Someone maintains it. This isn't a ruin. The uprooted glances at you. They called this place Archive Zero. You raise an eyebrow. The beginning, a nod. The place where memory was first shaped, where the original tenets were not written, but debated. You follow them through a low archway, and into a vast, domed chamber. At first, you cannot see its extent. The light from the pendant is too dim. Then they lift the pendant higher and twist its frame. It glows brighter. The room stretches outward, into the dark. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of stone plinths rise from the floor, each one holding a single item: a scroll, a carved stone, a mask, a blade, a bone. Each object is accompanied by a small inscription, etched into metal plates in a language you half recognize, half remember. Protocode, older than your time. You step closer. The first plinth bears a mask, smooth bronze, expressionless. The plate beneath it reads, Original Doctrine Holder. Recalled, redacted, reassigned, memory cleansed. The uprooted sees your confusion. They change the past here. Every time a story becomes inconvenient, they alter the artifact and reassign the lesson. Then they send it out into the Order again, disguised as truth. You walk between the plinths, reading more plates. Assassin herein, disobedient, recast as martyr. The alchemist of Dunwell never existed. Created for cohesion. The tenet of mercy, introduced during fracture. Backdated 230 years. You feel something cold settle in your chest. These were not just changes, they were fabrications. Entire teachings built upon fiction. You were taught to revere these names, these events, these sacrifices, and none of them may be real. Why? You whisper. The uprooted doesn't answer immediately. They lead you to the far end of the room, where a staircase ascends again, this time short, leading to a balcony overlooking the archive floor. A mechanical device rests there, large and covered with iron sheets and piping. At its center, a narrow stone throne. You approach it slowly. The throne is fitted with metal, circlets headgear of some sort, attached to tubes filled with cloudy fluid. Symbols etched along the armrests glow faintly. The uprooted speaks quietly. Now, this is the recompiler. You look to them uncertain. They use it to extract memories from dying assassins. Then they mix those memories with fabricated ones and implant the blend into new recruits. You step back. They don't teach through scrolls anymore, the uprooted says. They use this direct thought transfer. Stories rewritten from the inside out, and the recipients never know which parts are real. You stare at the machine. How long? Over a century at least, maybe more. And the Order doesn't know, or no longer cares. You sit on a stone bench by the wall, suddenly heavy. Everything you've done, every kill, every decision, every belief, it may all have been based on fiction. Manipulated memory, engineered obedience. And yet, you remember the pain, the sacrifice, the effort. Were those real? Do they matter if the story around them was false? The uprooted sits beside you. They'll be back soon, they say. They return every 3 days to clean the memory lines and load new artifacts. You glance at them. You've been watching this long. I was part of it once, not in the heart but close. I helped write new tenets. I helped erase people. You say nothing. They reach into their cloak and pull out a scroll, thin, sealed in wax, marked with a symbol you recognize only dimly. This, they say, is the original creed, before the rewriting began, before the Order forgot itself. You take it, feeling its weight. Not heavy, but undeniably real. Why give this to me? Because you still remember how to doubt. You both fall silent again, in the vast chamber below. The glow from the plinths hums softly like an ancient heart beating in the dark. You realize this archive is not just a library, it's a wound. A place where memory was gutted, rearranged, stitched back together to create something palatable, controllable, profitable. The Foundation is not simply rewriting history, they are colonizing memory, and you are now a threat. You do not sleep that night, even in the depth of the archive. With its walls of thick stone and preserved silence, your mind refuses stillness. You sit beside the recompiler, scroll still clutched in your hand, the faint burn of the lantern casting long, tired shadows across the floor. The truth is heavy in your chest, but weight alone cannot guide decisions. Eventually you speak. Why didn't you destroy this place? The uprooted leans against a column, arms folded. Because knowledge, even poisoned, has value. And because others tried, they never returned. You glance at the spiraling plinths below. Is anyone else like you? Too many, they say. But most don't last long. Some defect. Some forget. Some choose to believe the lie again because it's simpler. And the Foundation, always watching, always adjusting. You never see them in daylight. They exist behind cloaks, archives, parchment, doctrine. They have no faces, only intentions. You look back to the recompiler. How many minds have they rewritten? Hundreds, thousands. Enough that truth has become a minority. You rise slowly, your muscles sore from stillness. You pace a circle around the recompiler, eyes narrowing at the delicate tubes, the faint hum of alchemical flow. The machine is alive in a way, not breathing, but pulsing. Can it be reversed? The uprooted is silent for a time, then not easily. You'd have to find the original stream, what they call the memory route. It's not here, it's somewhere deeper, beneath the fortress of whispers. You exhale softly. That place is forbidden, sealed for over 2 generations, said to house the last original text of the creed. Most believe it to be a myth, but you have seen too much to believe in myths anymore. The uprooted gestures toward a tunnel at the back of the archive. This way, I'll take you to the old path. You tuck the scroll into your belt and follow. The passage is narrower now, more crudely carved. This section hasn't been used in years. The stones sweat with moisture. The scent of decay is faint, but ever present. As you walk, your hand trails along the wall, and you feel the etchings marks left behind by those who once trained here. Small lines, names, symbols of hope, or warnings. You pass through chambers where straw beds rot silently. You step over shattered clay cups and empty ink vials. In one room, you find the remains of a ledger, pages half-eaten by time. The entries brief and efficient. Subject 90 to resistant to insertion. Memory collapsed. Subject 109 success rate, 74%. False memory accepted. Subject 115, refused to kill, removed. Your hands tremble slightly. You push forward, the uprooted stops before a wall that seems solid, but with careful motion, they press 3 stones in sequence. A small seam opens, a door, not a new one, but something hidden for some. Outward. Beyond it lies a wide shaft, descending not by stair, but by rope ladder. At the bottom, a cart track, unused and half buried in dust. The miners once used this before the Foundation repurposed it. The uprooted says, it leads through the old veins under the central province. Few remember it exists. Fewer still know where it ends. You glance down the dark tunnel. Where does it end? Near the border of the Whispering Hills. If you make it through, you'll be close. You turn to the uprooted, and they hesitate. I've brought others this far before. Most didn't return, but you, I think you might. Their voices tinged with something close to sadness. You reach for their hand, grasp it once, then descend the ladder. The tunnel is quiet, the rails groan softly beneath your weight as you begin your walk. You light a small oil lamp, shielding it carefully. The darkness presses close. The air is filled with forgotten breath. Occasionally, small noises ripple from deeper veins, echoes of a world still remembering itself. You travel for hours, time loses meaning. You eat from your satchel dry oats, a sliver of cured meat, water from a cracked flask. You think of the creed again, the scroll in your belt. You wonder how many others carried it before you, and how many of them died believing it would change something. Eventually, you reach a fork. The right-hand path is blocked by a collapsed beam. The left is clear, but covered in glyphs, painted symbols in red. Long, dried and cracked. Warning marks. You proceed left. Each step is slower now. You listen for movement, for whispers. For the Foundation, you find them not in bodies, but in echoes. In one chamber, you stumble across remnants of an old recompiler or smashed, torn apart, wires spilled like veins across the floor. A message is scrawled on the wall. Memory is not truth. It is a tool. Later, you pass a skeleton, cloaked, small, possibly a child. A mask lies nearby. You pause, kneel, offer silence. When you finally see the faint light ahead, dull and gray and promising, you nearly don't believe it. You move toward it, faster now. The tunnel ends in a rocky opening. You crawl through and emerge into a wide, windswept hollow between hills. Ruins rise ahead of you, pillars, half-collapsed courtyards filled with shattered stone. This is the outer boundary of the Fortress of Whispers. And for the first time, you are close. You do not yet know how many lies you'll uncover inside. You do not yet know who will find you before you find the truth. But you know this. You remember who you are, even if the world tries to rewrite it. The ruins loom in silence. Before you, the Fortress of Whispers rises out of the hills like the ribcage of a long-dead beast. Broken towers pierce the sky at strange angles, and low walls crumble into shallow graves of stone. Vines have grown over archways that once bristled with banners. No sound moves here, not wind, not birds. It is a silence that feels deliberate, not natural. You step forward, boots crunching on dead leaves. The scroll tucked inside your belt weighs more than before. The light filtering down through gray cloud is dim, almost silvery, casting long shadows that lean and stretch as if the stones remember movement. The main gate has long since collapsed, but a narrow servant's passage remains intact along the north side. You slide through sideways, emerging into what was once a courtyard, circular, sunken, and now choked with cracked flagstones and patches of moss. At the center stands a dry fountain. Its basin is filled with rusted coins and bones too small to be animal. You move quietly, deliberately, no signs of habitation, no fires, no voices. But your instincts, sharpened by years of deception, tell you that someone has been here recently. A single boot mark in soft mud, not yours. Deep, heavy, unrushed. You follow the edge of the courtyard to a small hall with high ceilings and shattered glass windows. Once, this might have been a chapel or training hall. Now, it's just another forgotten chamber. The walls are etched with carvings, faded, worn by time, but still legible. You run your fingers across the stone. They depict scenes of assassins not in violence, but in silence, kneeling beside kings, standing over maps, walking among peasants. In disguise, no blood, no blades, just presence. It's strange. These are not the images taught in your chapter house. In those stories, the assassins were ruthless, sacred killers. Here, they appear as something older, observers, protectors, maybe even witnesses. You step deeper into the hall and find a heavy door at the back, partially open. Beyond it, a staircase descends into darkness. You light your oil lamp and begin the slow, careful descent. Each step echoes below. The air is thicker, not foul, just ancient, as though time has pooled in this space, unmoving. You reach the bottom and find yourself in a library of stone. Books at least, not immediately, but walls lined with carved tablets, each slot holding a rectangular stone. Runes run across their surfaces in long, looping lines. You approach one and gently lift it from its shelf. It's heavier than expected. The script is not one you've read, but parts of it resemble early tenet markings. You recognize phrases from the creed distorted older, before they were codified into doctrine, before they were filtered through the foundation's hand. You replace the tablet and move deeper. In the center of the room lies a large circular slab of granite, flush with the ground. A sigil is carved into its interlocking rings, familiar and unfamiliar at once. You place your hand on the stone. It's warm suddenly. A low groan shudders through the floor. The circle splits into 4 parts, each segment drawing back to reveal a spiral staircase leading further down. You descend without hesitation. The deeper chamber is colder. Your breath fogs faintly in the lamplight. The walls here are smoother, clearly shaped by careful hands. You notice iron bands crossing the ceiling, runes carved into them, protective wards, not to keep things out, but to keep something in you. Reach the final chamber. It is vast, circular, lined with shelves that hold thousands of glass vessels, each one glowing softly from within. Inside each, a swirl of light, shifting like smoke suspended in water. Memories. The room hums with quiet energy. You approach one vessel, reading the small metal tag affixed to its stand. Witness 0147, name unsell event. Collapse of the Western Council. Date 378 before accord. You move to the next. Witness 0234, name Gillen, event. Betrayal at Stonegate. Memory verified. Each vessel is a life, a moment, a preserved truth. This is no simple archive. This is the memory root, the original record, uncorrupted, unaltered, untouched by foundation lies. Here, the order did not write history. It captured it, bottled it, protected it, until someone chose to hide it. You explore the room slowly, your lamp casting long shadows. You find a pedestal at the far end of the room, raised and set with a single vessel larger than the rest. The inscription reads, Root entry, author unknown, purpose, origin, memory. You do not touch it yet. Instead, you sit cross-legged beside it. The silence of the chamber presses around you. But this silence feels different. Not like the emptiness above. This silence is not absence. It is listening. You close your eyes and breathe deeply. What truth are you ready to know? What truth are you ready to share? If you take the memories from this place, you will be hunted. Not just by blades, but by ideas. By those who fear memory more than death. By those who would rather preserve the lie than admit it was ever needed. But if you leave it here, buried beneath stone, then all of it will remain forgotten. You open your eyes and reach for the vessel. Your fingers wrap around it gently. The glass is warm, and slowly, the memory inside begins to move faster now, swirling, rising toward the surface, ready to reveal. The vessel is warm against your palms. You cradle it carefully, lowering yourself to the stone floor of the memory vault. The chamber remains still around you. The low hum of preserved time is the only sound. As you steady your breathing, the light within the glass pulses, once, twice, and then slowly, the world around you begins to shift. The memory doesn't explode. It seeps. At first, It's nothing more than a scent wood smoke, wet stone, and the sharp temps of burning parchment. Then sound, hooves on cobblestones, the low murmur of voices wrapped in hooded tones. You blink, and the chamber fades. You are no longer yourself. You see through another's eyes. You stand atop a hill in the rain. Below, a small fortress burns its banners unfamiliar, its guards overwhelmed. Around you, a dozen cloaked figures wait in silence. They carry no weapons. Their hands are empty. One speaks beside you, their voice calm and resolute. We do not kill to preserve balance. We kill to stop imbalance from becoming permanent. Another responds, younger, and if we die, then we die remembered, if not by name, then by weight. The memory pulls tighter now. You see glimpses quite breathless, a parchment laid flat with 7 signatures, a council chamber lit by candlelight, men in chainmail arguing with scribes in scholars' robes. A child no more than 10, handed a mask and told, you will learn, not who you are, but who you must be. And then the founder, the original one, no name, just presence, standing before the others, voice low, eyes tired. They speak in a whisper that carries through time. We do not serve kings. We do not chase power. We exist because truth dies, unless someone guards it with silence. The memory shifts again, centuries pass in moments. You see the order grow. A man delivers a message and disappears into the sea. A woman poisons a tyrant not with a blade, but with an idea whispered in a queen's ear. You see children trained, not just to kill, but to observe, to remember, to record. They are not taught loyalty. They are taught patience. But then, corruption. Not immediate, not obvious. First, a faction, then a compromise. Then doctrine. The foundation begins, not as a betrayal, but as a convenience. Rules to prevent splinters, structure to preserve intention. You see a council forming beneath torchlight, cloaked not in fabric, but in ideology. They speak of operational clarity, of unified narrative, of the necessity of refining history for the greater good. One of the elders protests. She is silenced, her name wiped, her memory sealed. The recompilers are born, not to preserve truth, but to overwrite danger, to ensure loyalty, to keep the order whole. You watch as the original teachings are stripped, rewritten, condensed into the creed. You watch as the creed becomes law, then gospel, then unquestionable, and finally, you see yourself, not your face, but the path. You see someone walking the way you did, a learner, a believer, then a questioner, then something else. A final voice echoes through the vision, not from a person, but from the memory itself. If the truth is dangerous, then it must be shared. For truth that sleeps becomes a lie. The light in the vessel dims. You return to yourself. You are sitting in the memory vault again. The warmth is fading from the glass. Around you, the other vessels remain still, silent, but you are no longer the person who entered. You now carry something the foundation cannot erase. The real origin. The reason for everything. And with that knowledge comes a weight. What now? You sit for a long while, listening not to the vault, but to your own thoughts. You think of those who trained you. You remember their faces, their corrections, their quiet praise. You remember the cold dormitories, the ink-stained lessons, the drills. You remember your first assignment. You remember the pride, but you also remember the doubts, the contradictions, that lives changed because someone said that truth was too dangerous to live. And now you know that wasn't always the way outside. The sky begins to shift from gray to black. Night rises. You return the vessel to its pedestal. Then, slowly, you move to a side wall, one you had not noticed before. It is inscribed with a single question in an ancient tongue. But you recognize the meaning. Do you remain a witness, or become a voice? There is a lever below the words, dusty, unused. You reach out, pause, then pull. Stone grinds behind you. A hidden panel in the vault wall opens, revealing a spiral ramp leading upward. Another path, not the way you came in, a way forward. As you ascend, the sound of wind returns. Air grows fresher. You emerge at the rear side of the ruins outside the known maps. Away from the paths watched by the foundation, you stand in a shallow valley of tall grass and heather. The moon is just beginning to rise. A faint, pale light, drapes the hills like a linen shroud, and you are alone, but not lost. The scroll is still in your belt. The memory is still in your mind. The lie has been unlayered now. The real choice begins. You step into the wind. It brushes across your face, clean and thin with the chill of higher ground. The grasses sway softly, and the only sound is the gentle creak of your leathers and the whisper of your own breath. The ruins of the fortress of whispers are behind you, now buried once more in silence, but no longer in ignorance. You have not destroyed anything. You have not written your name into legend, but you carry something heavier than fame. Knowledge, the kind that alters perception, the kind that cannot be returned once carried. Your path is no longer marked by orders or assignments. There is no next target, no next report. You are not being hunted yet, but you know the order well enough to understand the rhythm of its suspicion. If you were being watched before, you will now be watched even more closely. But you are not in haste. You move eastward through the low valleys, passing ruined boundary stones and collapsed milestones, fragments of older kingdoms long absorbed by newer names. You rest beneath trees that once marked merchant paths, now overgrown and used only by foxes and things that no longer fear men. On the third night, you reach a hamlet you once passed through years ago. It has no name worth remembering, just 4 houses, a water wheel, and a chapel of simple stones. The people do not recognize you. You are just another cloaked figure. Your blade is hidden, your eyes are downcast. You buy bread without speaking, and sleep in the hayloft of a quiet barn whose owner neither asks nor minds. In the quiet, you read the scroll again. Its cipher is dense, but you understand more now than you did when you first took it. The names listed are real figures from your history lessons. Yes, but linked in ways never taught. Quiet notes connect betrayals to reforms, reforms to disappearances, disappearances to rewritten texts. And one name appears again and again. Aaron, keeper of the divide, always unsigned, always adjacent to correction. Whoever Aaron was, they understood what the foundation was becoming. Their warnings were ignored, then omitted, then erased, but not completely. You consider what to do next. You cannot burn the scroll. You cannot carry it openly. You cannot trust the couriers, nor the scribes who duplicate it for coins. Even sympathetic chapter houses might betray you out of fear, not malice. And then you think of someone, a woman named Brisseth. You met her 3 years ago, in the city of Raidensgate. She posed as a herbalist, but had once been a listener. Those quiet historians who memorized events forbidden to write. She knew your order's deeper codes. She spoke of fractured tenets and wondered aloud if the truth keepers had become truth weavers. You do not know if she still lives, but if anyone would understand what you found, it is her. You leave the hamlet at dawn, traveling north now, passing from the borderlands into the old imperial heartlands. Here the air carries the scent of tamed rivers and mossy canals. The roads are straighter, more guarded. You avoid them. In a quiet glade near a watchman's trail, you encounter a patrol, 2 men on horseback, not foundation. Local guards. Their armor is ceremonial. Their expressions, bored. Still, you lower your head. You make your voice hoarse when they question you. Pilgrim, you say. Northbound. They wave you past. In a world bound by familiarity, ambiguity is armor. You arrive at Raiden Gate on the 6th day. The city remains, as you remember, wide arches of bone-colored stone, narrow streets braided between gilt towers, and old colonnades. The central aqueduct still sings with the sound of moving water. The market square smells of cloves and lamp oil. Brisseth's shop, if it still exists, will be in the garden quarter. You find it just before dusk. It is smaller, now less a shop than a window beneath a flowering vine. The sign has changed. No longer Brisseth's tinctures and tonics, but simply remedies. Safer, less traceable. You knock once, then twice, then pause. The door opens slowly, and it is her, older, slightly, but not broken. Her eyes widen slightly. At the sight of you, then narrow, not in suspicion but recognition. She steps back, wordlessly. You enter. No one speaks for the first several minutes. You sit at a small table while she pours boiled water over dried roots and sets out a piece of cheese. Only when the steam begins to curl from the cup does she speak. You're not here by coincidence. You shake your head. She sighs. Another kill. You reach into your tunic and remove the scroll. You lay it flat before her. For a moment, the silence returns heavy. Charged. Then she leans forward and reads. Her hand stops halfway down. I've seen this symbol before, she whispers. Only once. You nod. It's real, you say. She looks at you. Her voice is steady. Then everything they taught us was a veil. Even the old tenets. You say nothing. Instead, you reach into your satchel and remove a second item, a rubbing taken. From the stone tablet in the vault, a creed before it was a creed. She reads it, then she closes her eyes. I knew it, she murmurs. The foundation didn't just change the creed, they repurposed it. You sit in silence, drinking the bitter herbal brew, while the city continues its rituals outside, bells ringing, footsteps fading, shutters drawn against the evening. Eventually, she looks at you again. You'll need protection. You nod. She opens a small drawer and removes a medallion, worn bronze, with a smooth blank face. No sigil, she says. No origin. But it opens certain doors in the south. Seek the stone ledger, not a place, a person. You take the medallion. Neither of you speak again for some time. Outside, the stars rise slowly, one by one, and you think not of revenge, not of glory, but of continuation. What happens when history is no longer hidden? What does a world do with memory unbound? You do not know. But you are no longer just a shadow in the creed. You are now its echo. The medallion is cold in your palm. It bears no emblem, no crest, no runes, just a perfect weathered circle, smooth and forgettable to anyone not trained to see it. But in the right hands, at the right threshold, it says everything. You leave. Raiden's Gate under moonlight, wrapped in a borrowed cloak, your weapons hidden beneath layers of drab wool. You take no horse, you follow no roads. Instead, you drift through the orchard paths, past old monastic ruins and grain silos, long emptied. The night air is still, not heavy, but full. A new kind of silence, not the silence of death, or obedience, or secrecy. The silence of decision. For days you travel south, tracing trails marked only in the memories of those who no longer speak. Villages blur past you. Ruins cradle stories you now understand in ways you never did before. You sleep in barns, under trees, once beneath a collapsed bridge, where someone had carved a symbol you hadn't seen since your earliest training. A circle within a circle, unfinished. By the 10th day, you reach the ridgelands, where the air turns thinner and the light more pale. Here the roads end. What remains are mule trails, cave paths, forgotten smugglers' ways. The world narrows eventually. You find it, a cottage carved into a cliffside, half swallowed by moss and lichen. It leans with the wind, but stands nonetheless. A stone plinth marks the entry. No inscription, just an indent, barely wider than a coin. You place the medallion into the recess. It clicks, turns, and vanishes into the stone. The door opens inward. Without sound, inside one room, a fire burns low in a hearth. Stacks of parchment line the walls, codices bound in hides, loose sheaves covered in diagrams and marginalia. The scent of oil and dried rose hips lingers in the air, and seated at a table, copying a diagram in silence, is the one they call the stone ledger, not a myth, not a code name, a person. They do not look up when you enter. They simply say, you've come far, and you've seen too much to be silent. You say nothing. You lay the scroll before them, then the rubbing, then the notes, the cipher keys. Mine's the lineage of the order, corrected by truth, not fiction, not memory shaped by power, but memory shaped by presence. The ledger reads for a long time. Then finally, they look up. You've done what the Foundation feared most. You remain still. You remembered. They rise and move to a shelf, where they pull a small iron tome, no title on the spine, just a lock without a key. They press their thumb to the metal. It clicks open. They hand it to you. You open it. Inside are stories. Some you already know, have truths from your training, now corrected. Others are new. Testimonies, confessions, lists of those who tried to stop the distortion and were buried. For it, and maps of the order's real scope, not just in cities and keeps, but in archives, marketplaces, households. Some of the assassins were never killers. They were memory keepers, archivists, false traitors, whose names were hidden so that the lie could live louder. You sit and read for hours, and as dawn breaks, the ledger finally speaks again. You've become something they never planned for. You look up, they taught us to be tools. You say, I became a mirror. Outside, the wind shifts. You step from the cottage and walk the ledge road. You descend slowly, no longer in hiding. Not yet in the open, but no longer in the shadows of obedience. You do not plan to expose the foundation. Not yet, it would be a loud scream into a world built of whispers. Instead, you choose a slower path, a deeper one. You begin to travel not as an assassin, but as a traveler, a speaker, a questioner. You move through border towns and distant ports. You sit in libraries and ask to see texts others forgot. You find old initiates turned blacksmiths, midwives, and stonemasons. Some welcome you, some fear you. To each you offer the same gift. Truth once forbidden. Not all believe, not all want to, but some do, and from them, something begins to stir. Not a rebellion, not a coup, a remembering. Quiet, steady, like the breath of the world, before dawn. And so your story continues. Not in fire, not in blood, but in ink, in shared glances, in silences that carry weight. You never return to the fortress of whispers. You never report in again. But the order still exists, stangled, conflicted, unsure of what it has become. And somewhere within it, rumors begin to surface. Of one who walks without a sigil, who knows the real creed, who does not kill, but speaks, and whose silence, once broken, never truly ended. As you fall asleep, in a stone-walled room above an apothecary in a mountain town, the final echo of the creed returns to you, not the one carved into the hallways of your training, but the one you found, old and original. We are not the hand, we are the breath between. Where memory fades, we endure not in shadow, but in stillness. You close your eyes, and you dream of nothing, because for the first time, the truth does not haunt you, it lives in you, and that, finally, is enough.